If there's one thing Hiveswap wants you to know about its heroine, Joey Claire, it's that her father has caused her immense harm. We don't know exactly what aspect Joey is bound to yet, but one thing we can say for sure is this. She has a lot of light imagery attached to her. Joey's favorite toys are video games, Simon Says, light brights, all things that light up. The way this shines through brightest, however, is in Joey's thirst for the spotlight. Joey aspires to be a world-famous dancer, just like her mom. And Joey's thirst for attention matters because it forces us to focus on how Joey's life is cast under the shadow of loneliness. Lacking friends of her own, she practices dance routines by herself, looking forward to the day the world appreciates her talents. She hoards videos of her mom's old performances, not just out of grief, but because she wants to save everything new of her mom she has left for the days when Joey herself wants to feel cared about. And all of that loneliness and sorrow comes out in full force as a sense of spiteful anger at the one person who could and should have been there for her. Joey's messy and painful anger at her father's neglect is, in my opinion, the beating heart of Hiveswap's poignant and moving narrative. But it's also another story, to be told another time. Today I want to focus on the man who made Joey's life the way it is, Jake Harley. A self-made Renaissance man, Joey's pa is an extreme polymath, a world-renowned explorer, naturalist, treasure hunter, archaeologist, scientist, adventurer, big game hunter, and billionaire. So let's sit back, relax, and dive into his story. April 13, 1910. A legendary prankster named Colonel Sassacre adopts an infant girl he found inside a meteor that hit his wife's bakery. 8 days later, on April 21st, another meteor lands just outside his home, striking the doghouse of his beloved pet, Harley. The colonel investigates, remarking he would rather perish himself than lose the animal. His wish is granted. The man is shot by a baby boy, dual-wielding flintlock pistols. The boy is welcomed into the world by the girl and their beloved dog, who escaped the collision unharmed. The boy has trouble pronouncing the dog's name, though. Sounds more like Harley when he says it. This is how Jake Harley's life begins. He and his adoptive sister are taken in by the colonel's widowed wife, the mysterious baroness of a baked goods empire. She knows her children, not true siblings, are one day destined to be married and raise 2 children who will save the world. She does all in her power to make sure this never happens. The CEO of Betty Crocker Incorporated proves a cruel and wicked stepmother, and by age 13, Jake decides to leave home in search of adventure. He leaves his sister behind, and though they're seemingly in touch, they never quite reconnect. Over the next few decades, he found Skynet, a company involved in both highly advanced technology and children's toys. At some point, he marries A. Claire. Soon after, his former stepmother, the Baroness, disappears without a trace, leaving Crocker Corp to him instead of his sister. Already wealthy, Jake assumes control and incorporates the company into his other enterprises. Somewhere along the way, Jake likely unofficially adopts Joey's babysitter, Roxy. We'll get to her in a minute, but let's fast forward a bit. Jake and Claire have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. A. Claire dies, and Pa becomes increasingly distant and aloof from his children. Their care is left to Roxy, though she also works in Jake's labs and struggles with alcoholism. The question on everyone's minds, including Joey, is why? What made Pa abandon his children? In an ancient set of frog ruins, on an island somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, we'll find the answer. Here, Jake Harley discovered something that changed his life forever. A mysterious code imprinted into the walls of the temple that turned out to be a programmable language meant to code a video game, and its release would be the crowning achievement of Skynet's industrial journey. It would also end the world as we know it, drowning the planet in a rain of falling stars. Jake knew this well in advance, as his research uncovered an unsettling conspiracy surrounding babies falling from the sky riding meteors. He would learn of 8 babies in total, whose arrivals would herald the final apocalyptic rainfall. Himself and his sister, who landed in 1910, Joey's babysitter Roxy and one other boy, who would land some 60 years later, and then a set of 4 children, all of whom would land around 1995, less than a year after Joey and Jude's house is attacked. Each of these children will be raised by one of their starborn elders until 2009, when they all begin playing Spurb. Roxy and Pa will each raise a girl, Pa taking his adoptive granddaughter to live on the same secluded island where he found the frog ruins in the first place. Joey's father surely knew this girl would be coming because he had her and Jude call him Pa, in imitation of the way Jade would come to call him Grandpa. In his last moments, we learn the man is effectively delusional, choosing to spend time on a tea date with a stuffed doll of a blue lady instead of watching over his granddaughter. Said child kept occupied by the art of dual-wielding flintlock pistols. The result would mark the perfectly symmetrical end of Jake Harley's life, but not of his legacy. Though the worldwide release of Spurb was still about half a decade away, he had already set the gears in motion, initiated the machinery that would destroy Jude and Joey's lives before they could really begin, no matter what he did. This knowledge must have weighed heavily on him, as it's what lies at the heart of Roxy's drinking problem. Jake also struggles with some unhealthy coping behaviors. Hoarding is a common symptom of depression and anxiety, for example. But we could argue that the self-delusion that led him to neglect his children is also a self-destructive strategy to cope with the apocalypse. We can do this because we have someone to compare him to: himself. Spurb gives Jake 2 lives and 2 alternate versions of Earth. This version of Jake, Jake English, grows up with 3 best friends. Teen versions of his sister in another life, the boy he and A. Claire were left waiting for, and Roxy. In this life, Jake grows into not just a man, but a hero and god. He's given the title Page of Hope, which describes his fundamental power over reality. While its exact meaning is under debate, I would say it translates to one who serves hope, or invites the service of hope, for their own benefit. The title Page comes with some interesting recurring challenges. Pages are often self-serving and self-obsessed to a fault. They also tend to struggle with cowardice, to the point that overcoming this cowardice could be seen as the main struggle of a page. Jake English overcomes this challenge, but not without struggle. Remember his former star-crossed lover, Jane Crocker? In this life, he spends months believing her lies so that he can avoid a relationship with her without having to hurt her feelings. And he has such a hard time confronting the boyfriend he chose over her, Dirk Strider, that he ends up avoiding him too. But despite his lousier moments, Jake claims to love his friends, and his greatest actions prove it. Even after their problems sour their friendship, he's willing to die to save Jane's life. He cares about Dirk so much he keeps a splinter of his heart locked in his subconscious as his imaginary friend. Even in Jake's life as Pa, the influence of the Alpha Kids lingers on in, of all things, the man's taste for decor. Stuffed animals and mummies trap both Joey and Jade, not just because of Pa's love of the hunt, but because taxidermy and funeral rites were an obscure interest he shared with Roxy in another life. With nothing to look forward to except preparing his granddaughter for the apocalypse, the man had plenty of reason to think about death. Perhaps his friendship with Roxy, a girl deeply connected to the ideas of loss, non-existence, and nothingness, brought him some comfort as he faced the end. If not, he certainly found it in his valiant knights, as they would stand in for his memory of Dirk, Jake's best friend. A prince by nature, Dirk wished for nothing more than to be like his older brother Dave, and strove to live up to the ideal of the knight. Dirk's passion for being helpful to his friends synergized with Jake's instinctive tendency to rely on others, and Jake grew to admire and believe in Dirk greatly, trusting him as a guardian and protector when he felt unsafe. So it's fitting that Pa would remember Dirk as a knight, rather than a prince. Pa's Blue Ladies call back to his mutually affectionate friendship with Jane, which included the two sending each other posters of attractive blue ladies and gents. In a sad, final touch, Pa lights the floors of the home that will serve as his coffin with lights echoing each of his friends' text colors. He would make sure Jade kept the family tradition of taxidermy, and kept his corpse by the fireplace surrounded by his distinguished house guests. A mummy, a knight, a blue lady, and one final friend. A deer in a suit who holds another story to be told another time. Jake is implied to have a subconscious understanding of reality far exceeding almost everyone in the cast, but it's still hard to say whether Pa was even consciously aware of his memories of these people. Even so, it starts to sink in how much Pa's mind has been taken up by these friends. It's obvious their absence weighed heavily on him. But there might be a silver lining here. See, in every other instance of Spurb that we've seen, the game leaves behind almost no survivors. This is because Spurb is not widely distributed in those universes. But Jude and Joey's Earth is unique. Here, Spurb is launched through an international company on a simultaneous global release date. Anyone who gets the game can play, and so escape the apocalypse. We know almost nothing about any group that played Skynet's version of Spurb besides the 4 Homestuck kids, but the one example we do get is implied to God tier, typically a mark of success and progress in a Spurb session. Calliope and Caliborn were born naturally, meaning that it's possible for anyone to play Spurb even if they aren't born through the game's self-creating systems. The possibility of success has not been dashed. So from our perspective, Pa has given vast swaths of humanity a fighting chance to live. He has given them hope. And he's done the same for Jude and Joey, as he's left them at least 2 paths through which to escape certain doom: Spurb and the Cherub Portal. We don't know if he did this intentionally, but he might have. He seemed to be researching Alternia through the portal for a while before the events of the game. Joey notes that the globe in his trophy room doesn't match Earth, and she finds the map of Alternia in Damek's house familiar. But at this point, it's hard to say if Pa did any of this because he knew for sure it would work, or even that he did it on purpose. Even if he did, he might not have done it for humanity or Jude and Joey's benefit at all. It might have been for him. Just another way for a sad old man to play make-believe, and imagine his story might have a more hopeful ending somewhere down the line. We'll just have to hope that later installments of Hiveswap, or perhaps its sister game, Haunt Switch, let us in a little further into this mysterious old man's head. So, what do you think? Is Joey's Pa an unforgivable monster? An underappreciated hero who did his best to save people even in impossible circumstance? Just a sad old man, lonely and lost as he waits for the end to come? Or maybe all of the above? Let me know in the comments. This video exists thanks to the support of my wise cohort of patrons. If you'd like to summon more videos like this onto your screen, then you can join them. Also make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video. That's all for now. Until next time, keep rising.